Well, hello there, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in for the first episode of Just Ask Jen. Some of you probably tuned in for some previous streaming stuff. This is the first episode of Just Ask Jen, where I'm going to be answering your EdTech questions live. I've had some folks that have submitted some questions prior to this session, so I'm going to answer those questions as well. For those of you that I've not met before, my name is Jennifer Hall, and I'm an educational technology specialist here in Atlanta, Georgia. And what that means is that I provide technology training for teachers and collaborate with them on the best ways to integrate technology in their standards-based lessons. So I love my job. I have an awesome job getting to work with teachers, but right now it's been very different with the pandemic and virtual learning. So I'm coming to you live from my home studio here and excited to share with you and answer some questions. So let me know if you're tuning in live. If you're one of those awesome folks that is watching from the future, thanks for checking this out. So looking here to see who all is tuning in live. And if you've got any questions, I've dropped the link in the chat. You are welcome to ask away. You can fill out the Google form or just drop them in the chat, and I'm going to answer them as we go through the session. It's going to be very informal. I do have some great questions that were submitted, so I'm going to answer those first. But if you have questions, please, you can fill out the form or you can just drop them in the chat, and I'm watching the chat as we go through. Awesome. So thank you again so much for tuning in. I am thrilled to have you all here, and let's dive in. So one of the first topics that was pretty popular was some Zoom questions. So I'm going to talk about some Zoom features and tips. But I did have a particular question I definitely wanted to answer. And this is the first one I got, which was, we use Zoom to meet online with our kids. We'd love to have them use a virtual background to encourage more on-camera time with us. Our students are using district Chromebooks. Sadly, unfortunately, the awesome virtual background feature in Zoom does not work on Chromebooks because of the video processing power required to do it. So I wish I had a quick fix for that, but I have a non-tech solution you might want to recommend, and I recommend it to my schools that were having that same issue, because privacy is a tough thing for students because they want to be on camera, but they also don't want to open up maybe their room, their living room, their household. That can be a little frustrating, and kids can be a little insecure about that. So the suggestion I made, not a tech solution, but might be something you might want to consider, is going to the Dollar Tree, and you can recommend your students do it, or I recommended one of my schools to go buy a couple of just creative patterns that were the dollar tablecloths, and let the students come by and pick them up, and then they can actually hang them up behind them, so they've got their own kind of virtual background, but it's the non-tech solution there that might be something to try. Because unfortunately, the Chromebooks don't have the power to handle that. But thank you so much for that question. I had several schools that had a similar question like that, and that's a tough one. That is a tough one because we know privacy is a big one for students. We want them to be able to, be on screen, and a lot of kids don't want to, show what their homes look like, and that's a tough one. But yeah, so that was my non-tech solution, is to go buy the Dollar Tree tablecloths. They're little plastic ones, and just let the kids pick them up. And right now you're going to get really cool holiday theme ones probably. And it's just one solution for students. So thank you so much, Mary. I see you're here. And yes, I was happy to answer your question. That was, I appreciate you submitting it. Yep. Shower curtains. Thank you, Kathy. Exactly. There it is. My friend Kathy's got shower curtains. I've seen IKEA is a good option, but I was all about the Dollar General, Dollar Tree, trying to go as cheap as we can. Great question about Google Meets. So for Google Meets, they do have a new virtual background feature that's in there, and it does work on Chrome. It's just something with the app and being able to do it with Zoom. So I did see one hack if you're a teacher using a Chromebook, is that you can actually open up a Google Meet, use the virtual background feature that's inside of Google Meet now, and screen share to your Zoom, which is a lot of steps. I saw that on there as one hack if you're a teacher using a Chromebook and you want to have a virtual background. All right, yeah, that Dollar Tree. I mean, you can't beat the Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Dollar Store. Yep. And there's one of my friends from outside the States. Yes, that is a store in here in the States where literally everything is $1. It's like so much fun. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for that question. So I had another question because I get a lot of Bitmoji questions because Genmoji and I we lead a very exciting life. Well, she does. She likes to go places and do fun things. So I had a question regarding trying to use Friendmojis. And so we say Friendmojis, that's putting more than one Bitmoji together. So the Chrome extension, which you need to download to use just your own Bitmoji, does not allow for Friendmojis. But there was an update just a few weeks ago that's now inside of the mobile app that when you go in there, will ask you if you'd like to connect to have co-stars. And so that's a new feature. If you do that, anyone that is a contact in your phone will automatically, if they've opted in, you're going to see all of those Bitmojis. So actually, that's a better option because before it was in Snapchat, and in Snapchat, if not everybody was on Snapchat, you're not going to see everybody. And so I literally I installed Snapchat for the sole purpose of having Friendmojis with people. And so the new feature definitely helps out. So there is also a Friendmojis sheet that does let you, if you want to use a Google Sheet hack, and it lets you go in and collect people's different links. And I'm actually going to put that screen is up there. You can grab that link, and I'm going to drop it in the chat as well for someone that wants to grab that Friendmojis option. And let's see here. I'm going to put that in the chat for those that want to grab that. And it lets you copy and paste into, there we go. It lets you collect them. So if you're not wanting to share out your contacts and everybody connected, you can definitely try that one. All right, so that was the Friendmojis question, because so much fun when you have your Bitmojis together. And that new feature, the co-stars feature inside the mobile app, means now I have access to a lot more Bitmojis than I did before, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's take a look at some other questions here. So next category for some questions that we got here were some Google Classroom tricks and tips. So we're going to take a look at those, and I'm watching the questions right here. Questions. So please, if you have questions, drop them in the chat or fill out the form. I'm watching that as well. So, I did just notice about going back to the Dollar Tree, that it's a teacher's dream store. They have an actual teacher section now, which is amazing. I wish they'd had that when I was in the classroom, because keep border and all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, definitely loving the Dollar Tree. So Google Classroom tips and tricks. So I got a couple of tips and tricks I want to share for Google Classroom. But I had a question about managing Google Classroom. And that question was, how would you best manage or organize your elementary Google Classroom in regards to the growing number of assignments a teacher can post in it? Because right now we've been, we're halfway through the school year. There's so many assignments. So one of the suggestions I would make, because you don't want to delete assignments because you want to have that record in there. I've heard some people say that they restart and do a new Google Classroom for the second semester with the same students, just way they can organize it. Another suggestion would be to actually create just a topic that would be like archive, and drag all those assignments below that topic and just say, students, don't worry about that because it's below the line. It's still in there, because when you drag and move things from each of your different topics, they don't go away. It just that would be my suggestion. Another suggestion would be also just to kind of better organize your classroom, your Google Classroom, is to use some emojis for your topics. And so anything that's got an emoji on it would be like a live activity they need to be working on right now. And you can use it for bullets, and also create an assignment key of the writing piece of paper and a pencil means that it's a writing task. The question mark emoji means it's a question activity you need to complete. Things like that. So using the emojis, but I would make a new topic and then just drop it down at the very bottom. I have resources as my last thing in my Google Classroom. Another thing you can do is use the fancy text generator, which allows you to go in and make cool text so you can have the different topics stand out. And again, making that archive topic down at the bottom. So anything from first semester could be dragged down. It's still going to live there. And so students don't go past that point. They just know that that's like last year. All right. And thank you. Oh, great, Taralee. I'm glad you like those suggestions. That was your question. So hopefully that helps you out. Yeah, the emojis levels it up. And using that fancy text generator and just making a topic, archive it, but keeping it in the Google Classroom is what I would suggest for sure. All right, so moving on, here's a bonus tip for using Google Classroom. And I shared a video on this last week called, it's an extension called Talk and Comment. And I got to give a shout out to my den friend and Google guru, Jeremy Badner. He told me about this a couple of years ago, and it's really even more important now with teachers teaching remotely to use this extension. It's called Talk and Comment. And what it lets you do is record your audio and do voice notes. So you can do voice instructions for students, and it posts and lives in Google Classroom. The benefit of that is that students that you're trying to go through your lessons live, it's hard to repeat multiple times. And we know our students, either they're language learners or they're just diverse learners that are, struggling readers. They need that extra support. And it creates a little play button. And even your littles, your kindergarten kids can even see, oh, that's a play button, just like on my iPhone or my Android tablet or something. They know to play it, and they can play and pause and listen to your instructions. So I'm definitely going to give that as a bonus tip for Google Classroom right now. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Oh, yes. Mel, right. That is another one. Moat allows you to do comments inside of Google Classroom and on assignments. Moat is a really, really cool one. I'm going to put the in the comments. Yes, I will drop that link. Let me put this one right here. I've got Talk and Comment. Give me 1 second. I'm going to drop that one in there. No, I have it. There it is. So many links, not enough time. I'm going to grab this link and I'm going to drag it and drop it in there. Give me a second. And off it goes. All right. There we go. All right. Talk and Comment. There it is. So that's the one you want to go to, install that extension, and that is just going to be a game changer for voice notes. I've shared it out with some teachers this year. Because they were always having to repeat instructions. And I had a science teacher that just said it's been a game changer. She pre-records all of her instructions for every activity. She says it takes her a little extra time for that 30 seconds. She's reading the same written instructions, but no, those kids can play it and check it out. So there you go. Talk and Comment, bonus tip for Google Classroom. All right. So I got some quite a few questions on simultaneous teaching. That is the question of the week, of the year. What does that look like? We actually have, we've got a lot of our teachers that are saying, what do we do when we get into the classroom? And I still have kids in Zoom. I don't understand. What is that going to look like? I don't know either. So we've been brainstorming. We've been talking. And in my team, we've been talking about what does that look like? We're calling them the roomies and the zoomies. You got the two different students that you're working with. So in our plan, we're suggesting that you develop your lessons. You're always thinking about it. What is the task that you want students to accomplish? So you want to think about ways that it can be done online and virtually, and maybe that those students can collaborate and work on both of them. I did just see a quick question here, and I think that this question was, does it work with Canvas? I think you're talking about Talk and Comment. It is a hyperlink to an audio recording. So as long as you can paste in a hyperlink, you can paste it there. You can use it in Google Classroom. You can use it in Google Docs and Slides because it automatically registers as a play link. So Quentin, and it's good to see you, my friend. It should definitely work in Canvas. But guess what? I'm going to challenge you to give it a try and let me know. We don't use Canvas in our district, so I've not tried that. But I'm going to let you experiment and report back, my friend. All right? Thanks for that question. All right. So simultaneous teaching. Let's think about that. We're brainstorming ideas of what does it look like for students to be in the Zoom and in the classroom. So there's a couple of things you got to think about in terms of what is activities, because you want students to be able to participate. And as a teacher, that's going to be a big struggle because you've got to share your focus in both arenas. So I would advise that a lot of your activities are going to stay similar to what you're doing now. For example, if you're doing a Google Slides collaborative document, that those kids that are in the room can still participate in that collaborative document. And then maybe you're going to partner kids based on there's a group that's in the room and there's a group that's in the Zoom, but they're working on the same collaborative document. So that's something I hear. So I see my friend Mel says you're doing simultaneous teaching right now. It's a tough one. And our teachers, we've been completely virtual, and we're planning to go back. We'll be back in classrooms in January, and teachers will be back in the classrooms, and the students will be returning at the end of January, and we're cycling in who's going to be by grade level. And that's the big thing, is that you want to be able to not split your focus, but also physically setting up your room. What is that going to look like? So in our particular district, we have smart boards in the classrooms. I say panels, so LED panels, interactive LED panels. And they also have their laptops, so that gives you 2 devices that you can connect to your Zoom. We've ordered document cameras that will serve as a second camera that can be used like a webcam to show a view into the classroom, so that the students that are in the Zoom can feel like that they're there. One of the other things that we've recommended, and I'm suggesting for teachers, is to use this right here. Is probably one of the best things I'm recommending to teachers, is this voice amplifier, because teachers are going to be wearing masks. And so if you're physically in the room and we're talking about social distancing, you're still going to try and stay away. But I don't know about you, if you've been anywhere with a mask on, even if you're like 2 feet from someone, it's hard to hear what someone's saying. So I've recommended to teachers that they need to get this voice amplifier, because it's a headset, it goes over, and as you're speaking, it amplifies your voice. And you can set the speaker, because it's wireless, over by the computer where the microphone is, that's going either into your Zoom, into your Google Meet, into your Microsoft Team, for those students that are tuning in that way. So that voice amplifier thing is, so we've got schools that have been ordering those. I've got one, I've used it as a presenter, and I did a trial run with a mask on, and it's crystal clear, it amplifies your voice. So like that's a piece in terms of, it's going to be hard for students if you're walk over to work with the students and you're still socially distancing, and they're working on a lab at their separate tables, and your microphone on your computer is all the way across the room. So that's one like tech suggestion that I'm making for teachers, is to grab this voice amplifier. So we've ordered that in our district. We've also, again, ordered the document cameras so that we can show what's going on in the classroom, because doing that allows students to feel like they're together and it's not disjointed. But I've seen a lot. Let's see here. That would be good for face-to-face with the mask. Exactly, Pam. That's exactly the purpose of it, because you're going to hear me clearly, because the speaker's in the room, it amplifies your voice, and where you place the speaker, it's going to be picked up on the mic for the Zoom or the Meet or the Teams. So yeah, and it runs depending upon the version you want to get. And I've seen them as cheap as $35 up to $80. It just depends on what you want to get. A wireless one, because the wired one, which I have teachers that already have it, the wired one, you like wear it like a little strap and you put it on your belt, but that defeats the purpose of being able to put the speaker over by your computer and you're free to roam around the room. And theoretically also, because it's a mic, it could be set on a desk and students could talk into it as well, so that they could be part of the conversation and students could turn in right there. So that's some tech tips related to that. And I'm taking a look here. I see you tried to pre-record a lot for that simultaneous. Tasha, you are hilarious. Thanks, Dr. Rachel. You're very kind. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I saw someone said interesting about the voice amplifier. Yeah, it's a really cool tool. I see my friend Sarah says, I have issues with vocal cords and amplifier that is issued to me. It's amazing to use. Couldn't imagine how it would be without it on face-to-face. Thank you, Sarah. See, exactly. And here's the thing. I'm telling my schools to invest in it. And I literally was on a call with one of my principals, and they needed to order like minimum of 50, probably 80, to make sure that all of their teachers and even the pairs that are working in the rooms had one. And I'm like, yeah, at $50 a pop, it's worth it though, because even when this craziness gets back to normal, it's going to be a voice saver for teachers. It's just, it's a great tool to have. So definitely think that's going to be beneficial. Let's see here. What do you suggest teachers use to watch YouTube videos without the commercials and ads? I've used Safe YouTube, but that doesn't always work. Okay. T. Galloway, thank you for the question. For the video piece, you can go in and copy the URL, and before the T, you put a hyphen, I believe is what it is. And what it does is then you copy that new link and no ads will appear. But yeah, I shared that tip out a little while ago. I'm gonna double check, but I think it's before the T, you put a hyphen in there and it blocks ads showing. So great question. Great question. All right, there it is. You put between the U and the T. Thank you, Mel. There we go. Mel's helping out. I think that's the right one, and I will double check. Let's see here. I see there's a program called Clip Grab that allows you to download most YouTube videos for your desktop. Okay. Thank you, Theodore, for that tip. That's great. So that lets you grab the whole clip or just pieces of it. That's pretty smart. Awesome. There it is. And Avid for the win. There it is. It's you. There it is. After the T, put a hyphen. Thank you, my friend from across the pond. I appreciate it. What the what the T in the I love that this is everyone's going to be like trying all the different hacks. It does work. I've seen a couple different ways, but it does. It blocks those ads, which is pretty cool. There we go. See, we're all learning together. I love it. So there was another question. So let's look at some questions we had. So the hybrid high flex learning, what is the best way to cater to both groups, which I kind of think I touched on about the fact that you want to make them feel like that they're involved in it together, and think about activities that's going to allow for that cross communication. I did see one suggestion where students were partnered for breakout rooms. Like if you were to do a breakout room situation in Zoom or Meet, and you assign students that at least one person that was physically in your room, your roomies, would be like the captain of your group of your breakout room, and then the students that were in the Zoom could be assigned to that. And as a teacher, as you're circulating around, you'd be able to see what's going on in those particular groups. And I thought that was pretty smart to take advantage of the fact that a kid in the room versus now when you try and go in breakout rooms, you got to hop from room to room. Here you could, doing that teacher walk, socially distanced, you could see what the students are working on and have the assigning students that are physically in the room to be the lead for the breakout rooms for the students that are home. So that's a tip there. So another question, still talking about simultaneous teaching, because that again is where we're focusing on that and trying to figure out what is the best way to engage students. So the question was, what are some creative ways to allow for collaborative work with or without technology in the classroom now that students are needing to socially distance? That is a great question. So one of the tricky things is obviously if they don't all have technology, that's one thing. But if they do have their own devices, and ideally they've had them, and when they come back to school, they're still going to be using them, is the fact that you can use a couple of different tools. And one of them I would say that allows for collaboration would definitely be Jamboard. And if you're not familiar with Jamboard, you definitely need to check it out. It is Google's interactive whiteboard that allows you to collaborate on it real time. And so you can assign it via Google Classroom, and you can force copy so that students have it, and you could put them in groups and give them the same one that you want them to work on. And it's just a great tool, and they keep adding more features. So if you haven't checked out Jamboard before, they've added a couple of new things, which I think are really powerful, which is, so it's very basic. You've got a pen with a handful of colors, the Google colors in black and white. You've also got your eraser, you've got your selector tool. You can do sticky notes with a handful of colors. So I can obviously add a note. And I apologize, teachers rock. I'm terrible at typing. And that I admit that's my weakness. I should have been paid way more attention in high school. So I can add that in here. I can pick the color. So you can have the students, you can make it be a check-in piece and color code it. So drop in a particular one based on, green, blue, or yellow means whatever. So you can use it as like a stoplight activity. But they've also added in newer features, which is the ability to add shapes. So now you can use this as a graphic organizer building tool for students to demonstrate their knowledge. And now they've also added in the ability to add text. So you can type in a text box. and I can go up here and choose, is it normal, display, or caption? So I have different options. So that's pretty cool. They before had a couple of options for backgrounds. Here's the game-changing feature that was added. It just dropped in the last two weeks, I think it's been, is the ability to add your own image. And so you can upload your own image. You can Google search an image. And so if we're talking about cells, and I want them to label a particular one, I'm just going to grab this one because it doesn't have any text. Here's where I can set it as the background frame. Whereas before, you could only add an image and it was movable and students could move it around and mess things up. Now this is the background image. As a student, I can add boxes to label it. I can add in text, I can draw, and I can annotate over it. So the fact that now that you can add that as a background image is a game changer. A little tip about Jamboard is the fact that it only allows 20 slides and up to 50 participants at a time. So it's more of a not everybody in all of your classes activity, but you can make copies and you can share it out. And what's really cool is you get this drop down here. I can see what I'm working on and I can duplicate pages by choosing to duplicate it. So I don't have to redo the work. So if you want to make a group 1 slide and group 2 slide and so forth. So that's Jamboard, and that new right now feature of uploading your own custom background is a game changer. So I'm popping back over to the chat right here. So I'm looking right here to see what else we got. So here, question, in your opinion, why would you use Jamboard over Google Slides? Loving the question. Thanks, Tasha. It depends on the activity. If I need to be able to monitor and see a bunch of students work on different slides and I need more than 20 slides and I want to see them simultaneously using grid view, I would go with Google Slides. If I need them to do a lot of heavy text and editing, I would use Slides. If I just want them to annotate, okay, I want them to have the drawing tools, and especially if I'm younger, I've got younger students, that drawing tool is a game changer because right here, this is meant to be a pen, and there's not a real drawing tool inside of Google Slides. If I go into Google Slides, it's going to be drawing lines, and it's not going to work the same as a pen, and it's going to be cumbersome for younger students. Also, if you're on tablets or you have iPads, Jamboard is a game changer for students being able to annotate on a device, and so for teachers to do demonstrations. So it really does depend. I'm not going to say only use Jamboard or only use Google Slides. It's going to depend on what the activity is. So if you are a fan of Jamboard and you're curious about checking it out, I do have some Jamboard templates that I want to share with you all right here. So I'm going to drop this. There it is. If you go to my Tech Tips website and you go to TechTips411/Jamboard, you're going to have access to quite a few templates. And I'm going to drop this link in the chat for those that want to check it out. So I am not one over the other. I'm of the mindset of what are the best tools for the activity. So there's that Jamboard link. Because I'm also a big fan of using, I've got some Jamboard ones, but I've got a lot of different Google and Google Docs and Slides activities, and these are all for the Spotlight on Strategy. And if you're not familiar with the SOS, the Spotlight on Strategies are quick, easy to use strategies from Discovery Education that allow students to engage and do critical thinking and engage in content. And so I like to use actually Slides for that purpose because I can go into grid view and see all of the students simultaneously working. And that's a great option right there. So you should definitely check that out. And so I've got the SOS, also TechTips411/SOS if you want to grab those. Those are free to use. You can modify them and see if they will work. So check those out as well. So I'm watching the chat coming in. Lots of questions, lots of good comments coming in. I so appreciate y'all right now. Let's see here. Jamboard, love it. Love it. Why, thank you so much. Hashtag the awesome sauce. I love it. Let's see here. I see that Natasha, Rachel for the drawing. So I love that drawing is my other favorite tool if we're talking about different Google tools. I mean, so many powerful things that you can do with Google Drawings as well. That's if you only need one page for a canvas and you're going to focus on that. Yeah, definitely some great options. I agree. Like Mel said slides has a lot. It just depends on what is the focus of the activity. What do you want your students to be able to do? Oh my, Dr. Aaliyah Henderson Rosser in the house. Thank you so much. I can't believe you're here, boss. I appreciate it. Yes. Well, I'm here doing all this awesome stuff thanks to you. I appreciate you giving me that opportunity and getting to work with teachers. That's the best part of the job right there. Let's see here. A couple of questions here. What are your thoughts between Nearpod and Pear Deck? Great question. Well, so Pear Deck obviously works with both Google and now PowerPoint. If you didn't know, they do have the ability to turn a PowerPoint into a Pear Deck lesson, which is pretty cool. Pear Deck has some really cool templates, but they don't have the content. So that's like you have to, that's like apples and oranges, because Nearpod, depending on the account that you have, Nearpod, you're also getting the actual lessons and content. Nearpod does allow you to take a Google slide deck and turn it into a Nearpod lesson, which is really cool. So you can, I prefer to design in Google Slides and then I turn it into an interactive lesson. So it just depends what you have access to. If you're a Microsoft district, obviously you can use the Pear Deck piece. But also the different types of questions and activities, I would also say it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So Nearpod has the new feature that rolled out this year, the ability for you to pop questions inside of a YouTube video or your own video. That's a game changer, because now I don't want you just to watch the video. You have to engage in the video. You have to answer questions. So that's point one for Nearpod on that one. But Pear Deck has some great templates for that check-in prior to a lesson, mid-check, and at the end of the lesson. So all of those are all, so I kind of gave you a little bit of both. Thanks, Tasha. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. I don't retire I've got a few more years in the game. There we go. Let's see here. Looking at some other questions here. It says, Nearpod just changed the free thing. Now it costs if you want to use that add-on for slides. I did see that. They did change that. So that does make it trickier. You got to be on the paid plan. Shout out to APS this year with distance learning. We actually were able to have access to Nearpod this year. It was purchased for the district for all teachers. So we've been very fortunate. I've done quite a bit of training on that. I'm seeing a lot of people saying they're a Nearpod user. Both of them, both of them have benefits. So I see that Mel says, I would lean towards Pear Deck for some things, but I have noticed that the free version of that is missing some things I want as well. So I will have to say, the audio and slides is not available in Pear Deck. And in Pear Deck, the premium, you get more data and the self-paced option. So good points. Let's see here. Oh, Celeste, you are so welcome. I'm glad you're finding the resources beneficial. Okay, apparently I've got teammates getting bonus points for showing up tonight. Thank you so much. James, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for tuning in right there. Hair on point. Great minds think alike. I love it. All right, let's see here. A couple other comments. Yep, it's like a baby ed puzzle in Nearpod. Yes, the interactive videos is definitely really cool. All right, some great comments and questions coming in. Thank you so much. So let's see here. I had a couple other questions I wanted to definitely touch on. So one of my other favorite tools that if you're not using it, I think you should, and I think would help streamline a lot of that differentiation piece for your students, is Wakelet. If you're not using Wakelet, it's a content curation tool, and it's a great way to level up your Google Classroom, your Microsoft Teams, because you can curate your resources and you can differentiate them. So in other words, we know that when we differentiate our lessons, we usually plan for the middle and we differentiate high or low depending on our learners. So based on that, I'm always of the mindset, when I was a gifted ELA teacher, I had 4 different checklists, because I had my emerging learners and my remedial students that needed some extra support, and my on learners and my gifted learners. So I had 4 different unit checklists to meet the needs of all of the students. So what you can do now is with Wakelet is you plan with all the resources you want your students to have in a Wakelet collection. And if you're not, again, you're not familiar with Wakelet, you need to check it out. It's a free tool, so I'm always about the free. It's my favorite price, or as I've heard recently, free 99. I like that. I'm going to start using that, free 99. So you can curate the collection. You have all of the resources that you need in that one, and then I can pull out what I don't want students on the emerging. I'm going to put in some different resources for them and do the same thing for my accelerated students. So I have quite a few templates that are available on Wakelet if you want to check it out. So I've taken the concept of hyperdocs. And if you're not familiar with the concept of hyperdocs, that's the idea of packaging a lesson with all of the resources to engage your learners. So I've got a 5E model, which is going through the explore, the engage, and so forth of a 5E lesson. I've got a template here that you can actually borrow, and I've got a couple other different templates here on Wakelet that you're welcome to check out and explore of different ways you can use newsletters and all that kind of good stuff. You can use it to do video playlists. Here's a great way to share out your videos. There was a question earlier about getting rid of the YouTube, putting the little hyphen in. You can make a video playlist, and since it's embedded, it's only going to play those videos. Think about it like embedding it into a Google Slides presentation, and you don't get your ads that way. You can do it this way as well. So for example, I made this collection of my Google tips and tricks, and it's a Wakelet collection that has all of my videos. And what's great is that it actually will, and it's going to load here slowly but surely. It's a gallery view of my videos, which is a more visually interesting way for students to be able to see videos. And you notice it has the description. So we're going to take a look here. I've got, so Wakelet has, let's see here. There's the playlist of all of my Google tips and tricks, which is super cool. So if I go, I want to say these are all, check it out. Here's all of the Googly videos. I can also take a look at some of these other templates that have like the 5E model, like I mentioned. I've got some newsletter templates, word wall, use it as a back channel, a digital portfolio. There's so many ways you can use Wakelet. So I definitely would recommend it as an option for you to share out resources with your students. I think that's going to help with differentiation. It's going to help keep together resources. And what's great is Wakelet, students don't have to have their own account. They can still be a guest on your Wakelet, and you can have them pull resources together. If they're 13 or over, you can have them get their own free account. But I had a teacher that was doing a coding project, and she wanted to get all of the students' resources that they had created in one place, and she wanted them to be able to add to it. They could have posted it in Google Classroom, but they would have been all under different people. But by putting it in one collection, she was able to share it out. And as a contributor, you can only add to it and delete what you've added. You can't delete anybody else's. So you don't have to worry about someone coming in and deleting and messing up your stuff. So I definitely wanted to give a shout out to Wakelet because I think that it is a very, very powerful tool. If you're not using it, and in the chat, let me know, is anyone using Wakelet right now? If you so, I'm taking a look right here. Theodore, oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you're loving the Tech Tip site. It's a labor of love. And thrilled to share the resources here. Let's see, I'm scrolling through here. Melissa, love Wakelet. Yeah, so many different uses. It's so awesome. Thanks, Dave T. So good to see you, my friend. I'm just happy to share, and I appreciate you tuning in and checking out some resources. So Wakelet, if you have not checked it out, I definitely would recommend that you should check it out. So hopping back over here, I had another question definitely want to cover that I thought was a good one. And for my global GEG folks that are tuning in, I see the power of having a team behind the scenes in StreamYard to handle all the questions and comments. So y'all are awesome. So let's see. There we go. Sarah says, haven't, but just signed up. Go to play with it. Looks really cool. Yes, Sarah, it's so awesome. Check out my Tech Tips one. There's ready-made ones. You can make copies of it. So have at it. EdTech Live says, love riding the Wakelet wave. Yes, and they're just a powerful resource. In fact, the Wakelet team is so awesome. I literally got like a holiday card in the mail today, all the way from England. They are awesome. So I had another question. We're talking about student engagement here. So right now, we're wrapping up. School's most likely out for most folks for the holidays at the end of this week. And then when we come back, I know in our district, we're still carrying on the first quarter and just trying to get students engaged, wrapping up the semester. I had a question here that I thought was a good one. And thanks, Tara Lee, for submitting this one. She's starting a 3D unit in math in January. What is a simple and free program to get my fourth graders to use the 3D printer with a project task in mind? I love it. So I actually have been having way too much fun with the 3D printer. I got it during quarantine time. It came and I've printed way too many things, which to the point I need to see people now so I can give away some tech tips 411 stuff because I've been printing too much. So I definitely think that there's so much power in having students create things. So what I would suggest is a website called, there we go. I'm going to switch over here. I would suggest a website called Tinkercad. So Tara Lee, if you're still tuning in, if you have not played around with Tinkercad, it is a great free tool that lets you do design. And it's built by Autodesk, but it's really kid friendly for them to do their own design piece. And then you can export it as files that can be either exported to put on a 3D printer, or the other cool thing is it will export it as an OBJ file, and you can actually use it on a merge cube if you have merge cubes. So I actually did that as an activity with students where you can actually design something and then export your logo, your image or whatever, and then actually hold it as a 3D object, not have to print it, but if you've got access to a 3D printer, that's the site that I would definitely recommend you checking out. So Tinkercad, and I'm going to drop that link in the chat so that you all, so for those that are tuning in and checking it out. So great question. Yes, you can create an educator account and you can monitor projects, I believe. Since I don't have students, but I do know that there is like an educator, I believe there's an educator account where students can log in and you can monitor. Thank you. I love that you love it. So wait, just for you, Abby, because you said it. So welcome to the studio. This is what it looks like. It has been way too much fun. You're gonna have to tear me away when I have to go back to the real world and I don't get to have I won't get to have all of my gadgets. Terrell, you're so welcome for answering your questions. Thank you for submitting them. I really appreciate it. I see for some reason my laptop camera is not working. I need a little more information on that. So you are so welcome. So yeah, check out Tinkercad, and I'd love to see what your students come up with Tinkercad. So there we go. Let's see here. I'm looking to see if we have any more questions coming in. I'm checking here, see if I got any more questions that popped in. I did have a couple more that came in, so I want to make sure I get to them. Do class participants need to log in to use Google Classrooms? Yes, they do need to log in order to get to Google Classroom, because it is behind that edu domain. So yes, they're going to have to log in. Let's see here. I've got this. I'm looking at this one here about, is there a game we play where science lessons? Watch your videos where I can create a Jamboard. Okay. If I share a Google Jamboard with the teacher of each class, will the students in each class be able to move the pictures on it when I present it on our virtual meet? So it depends on what, this is a question here about Jamboard. So it depends on what you set up on the Jamboard. So if you want them to move it, you can put images on it for them to drag and drop it. So like I made like an energy activity where you had to classify renewable and non-renewable energy. So you could drag it, but if you don't want them to drag it, you're going to upload it as the background image so that they can't drag and manipulate it. So that was the question that came in about Jamboard. All right, I think I got all the questions. I'm watching the chat to see if any more questions come in. I noticed that the camera went a little wonky there for a minute, so I switched over. Been a little wacky weather here, so I apologize, but I appreciate so much for you tuning in. Let's see, I got a question here coming in. Quentin, is there a way to use Google Expeditions or VR site without the headset so I can present it on a smart board? Well, first of all, I hate to tell you that Google Expeditions is going away. They're moving their expeditions, a majority of them, over to the Google Arts and Culture website. And by doing that, you won't be required to have a headset. So bad news is Google Expeditions going away. Good news for you, Quentin, is the fact that with that, you will be able to show it on a smart board and you would not be required to have a headset. So great question. There you go. Well, this has been a blast, and I so appreciate you tuning in. And Kathy, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was fun. It was one of my goals. I've done quite a few streaming stuff. I did it during the summer. I did the 10 Ideas series. And so this was my new challenge. I was going to do a Just Ask Jen, and I was just going to brave and hope that people would want to ask some questions and learn some things. And so I have really appreciated you spending some time with me. So if you're one of those folks that tuned in live, thank you so much for tuning in. And I got to do a shout out. I don't know if my dad's still there. I was telling my dad earlier that I was going live on YouTube, and he's like, really? And I saw he was here right at the beginning. So thank you, Padre, for tuning in. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else that tuned in for this. Let me know in the comments. Was this fun? Should I do another one? I said this was episode 1, but I said it could be like one of those pilots that gets made and then doesn't go anywhere because nobody enjoyed it. I don't rank high enough on the Nielsen ratings to have another episode. But I think it would be fun. I would love to do some more of these. So if you do, please, please let me know. Oh, thank you so much. You've helped me a lot with your videos. I appreciate it. Sarah, thank you so much. What tools or records do you recommend for giving students feedback? Google Docs, just because of the comment feature, is so powerful, and Flipgrid, so they can contribute in Flipgrid and you can respond in Flipgrid. And there it is. There's my dad. Thanks, Dad. So, and by the way, his birthday was just on Monday. So thanks for tuning in. And let's see here. Good to see you. I've seen all sorts of friends from all over. Oh, thank you, Celeste. I appreciate you tuning in for the summer sessions. They are on the web, on my channel. You can check them out. And thank you so much, Dr. Walker. You are awesome. Allison, thank you so much for tuning in. Kathy says she wants more. All right. If that's the case, then I will definitely right there. I see this. I just smashed that like button. Thank you. I can tell you've been watching a lot of YouTube channels. I love it. I love it. So many awesome. There you go. See, Dad, you getting shout outs from Canada. How awesome is that? There, Pops. All right. On that note, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to say thank you all so very much to everyone for tuning in live. And if you're watching it from the future, thank you so very much. Thanks for watching.